Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome. I just need to take it in for one moment. Katy, look around the room. Everybody is here to celebrate the launch of the direct sales book.
Pull up a cup of coffee and let's get this party started. We're the uplines you didn't know you needed, but now you have. This is the podcast for women who are building a direct sales business but want to do it the right way. Melanie has a decade of experience in direct sales. She's earned the top in industry 4 years in a row and has grown a multi-million-dollar organization. She gives a no BS approach to leadership, recruitment, and organization. And my bestie Katy has you covered with the rest. From the relationships, the do's and don'ts of branding, her content has been viewed by millions. She doesn't just talk the talk, but she teaches people how to create an intentional brand too. All right, let's get this party started. Well, hey everybody, it is Melanie Mitro and Katy Ersta, and as you can see, if you are watching this on YouTube right now, we are in a different location.
We are. It's a beautiful location.
It is. We are in downtown Pittsburgh, actually in the Strip District at the Art Room, and we are getting ready to host the launch party for the Direct Sales Done Right book, which launched today at the time of that we're recording this. So July the 20th, it's the big day. How do you feel?
I feel great. I'm so excited because our community, as well as all of the people who have been rooting for us for so long, actually brought it to #1 on Amazon in Women in Business and Direct Marketing, I believe. So 2 categories, and quite a few other ones. We're #1, we're #4, we're #2. It's been really crazy cool to watch.
It has. It has been, and you know, I know that you are the author of the book, and I sort of had the front row seat to watching the whole thing.
Okay, like the meltdowns, the I can't do this, like the waves of emotion.
Yeah,
I should have you and Mike talk about it. You guys could enjoy a cocktail and talk about it.
It was good. I think, what day was it? Was it this week? You called me in the other. It was one of the days I was like, "Ooh, this is a good one." I mean, usually Katy really does. You keep it together really well. But listen, it's been a journey, and it's been really, really incredible to watch something that you have talked about. I get goosebumps. Talked about for, I don't know. So let me give a little bit of backstory because. Katy and I met each other in college, and then we kind of went and did our own separate things, both got married, had our first baby, I had my second, and then we reconnected on social media. And, you came into the direct sales business alongside of me, and probably for the past 10 years, and we've been working together for 11 years, Katy has talked about writing a book.
Yeah.
And she would always call it the Ever-Loving Book. And the book didn't have a title. It really wasn't like, you didn't even know what you were writing about, but you just knew that one day you wanted to write a book.
Yeah.
And when we started Chic Influencer, which it is a 5-year company, she said, we're going to write a book. And for the past 4 years, I've said, no, it's not time. And I just kept saying, because I was like, we don't have time. Like we just weren't there yet.
We weren't there,
We were trying to get sort of our legs underneath of us. And this past year, she was like, I'm writing the book this year. And so in January was really kind of the start of like, okay, if we're not just going to talk about it, but we're actually going to do it, this is the plan. And so, as long as I've known her and we've worked together, she's always been talking about writing a book. And so I feel like what are we going to talk about next? Because the Ever-Living Book is here. I know we're not going to go there next, but
we can't even go there yet.
But it's so cool to watch this process and to see somebody's dream become their reality, and to know just how much heart and hard work and just that, like, the experience and the ups and downs. And there's so much that you don't see from the actual on the outside, but just all of the growth personally that has happened in this process. And so, I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And I hope that once all this hoopla is over,
you have tears in your eyes.
Like, take a moment to like go, this is real. Like, this really happened, because we kind of are in this like go. But I want to talk today about just how do you make something happen? How do you make a goal happen? Because a lot of people either want to start a business, or they want to launch a podcast, they want to write a book, they want to do something. So how do you make that something become a reality?
So I think today what we'll do is we'll give them sort of 5 steps. But I think it's really important to note that I was, for a long time, setting a great intention of writing a book, but I never really got down to writing a book because it just wasn't a priority. There was always something that takes precedence. And for me to actually write the book was a stake in the ground, sort of, it has to happen. and I need to make time for it. And I actually set a goal to it that I couldn't come back from. And I also realized too, and we'll talk about the 5 steps, that other people were depending on me when it came to this specific goal as well. So it wasn't just about me. And it actually made me think back to my time in direct sales. When I put a stake in the ground, I put a stake in the ground.
Yeah.
I will say that there are a lot of times where I can be indifferent and sort of back and forth about some things. But early on in my business, one of the first things that I did is when I had my son, Dom, I really wanted to extend a maternity leave. And I remember talking to you and you saying it's kind of far off, but it's a stretch. You could do it.
Yeah.
You could achieve this rank, and then you would get I think it was a car bonus or something like that.
Yeah.
And that would make up the difference in our medical bills, or in our Medicare or whatever it was. Not
health
Medicare.
insurance.
Health
Like your
insurance.
health
Thank
insurance.
you for the word. I don't know what I was thinking. But I decided, I think I'm going to do it. And then it was I think I'm going to do it, or maybe I can do it. And then it was there's no going back. I'm actually doing it. That same mindset was the same mindset I adopted to writing the actual Ever Loving. And so today I'd like to just dive into 5 things that I personally did that I know will help you when you are going back and forth with a goal and you're like, it's time to put a stake in the ground. And this is for people who are actually ready to put a stake in the ground. I should add that.
Yeah.
If you're ready to stop him-hawing and back and forth and toe dipping or whatever you want to call it, and you're ready to make it happen, here's what you need to do. So let's talk about number 1.
Okay.
Number 1, I want you to write in paper, like on paper, what is a habit that you need to stop?
Okay.
So look at your day, and it might take you a minute to audit what your day actually looks like. And I want you to go from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. So when you wake up in the morning, if the first thing that you do is grab your phone, and then before you know it, you're on your phone for a good 5 minutes. You go downstairs, you get your cup of coffee, and then you get back on your phone. Is that a habit that is costing you your dreams? Is that a habit that's actually moving you forward? So that's one example of a habit that you might need to stop. Another habit, for example, if you realize that you need a glass of wine every single weekend or every single night, and you know that you could be working your business in the evenings, but instead you enjoy that glass of wine, is that a habit that maybe needs to stop? And here's the deal. You're the one that has to say what the habits are that are healthy or unhealthy. Nobody else can do that for you. And sometimes that takes a lot of grit work. It takes a lot of heart work to actually really evaluate the things that actually are preventing you from working towards the goals that you are setting. So number 1 would be identify what habit you need to stop.
Okay. Was there a habit as you were going through the process of writing the book that you had to stop?
I actually had to stop following very specific people on social media who were already writers, who were already well-known writers, because instead of being inspired them on the daily, I was deterred. I was kind of like, they've already done it, maybe, and I was doing this comparison thing. So a lot of the writers that are in my circle, a lot of them are bloggers. I found myself saying, I actually need to stop following them right now. Because I need to be so focused on what my goal is. So for me personally, it was being very intentional about the type of people I was following. Likewise, because I was reading a direct sales book, I started following some of the top in the industry across the board. So I would follow Mary Kay. I started following Beachbody. I started following Monnet. I think it is Monnet, is how you pronounce it. I started following top in industry to see what their habits were, to see how they posted, to see what kind of content they created. And I also paid attention to the way they spoke to leaders in their organization. So I would say that is one habit that I stopped, but that brings us to number 2, which is what's a habit that you need to adopt. So do you want to talk about that for a couple minutes?
Okay, so when it comes to achieving a goal, there are things that are going to help you get there. And I think a lot of times people don't actually stop and say, well, what are the habits that I need to actually bring into my life that are going to help me get a step closer? And sometimes, especially if you're listening to this and you're early on in your business, it might mean actually sitting down with maybe a success partner, a mentor, or maybe watching the habits of highly successful people to see what they actually do. And so when I think about what habits that I needed to adopt, and even if I think about my own self and my own journey, was really instilling, the practice of what are those things, that one thing that was going to actually get me closer to the goal.
Yeah.
And the habit was eating my frog first. And so for a
Can you
lot
explain
of
what
us,
that means
so
exactly?
yes, so there's a book by Brian Tracy. It's called Eat That Frog.
Okay.
And we read it really early on,
yeah.
like one of the
Years
first
ago.
books that we read. And it talked about there is like one thing in your business that you need to do every single day, because it's a needle mover. It actually helps you get closer to your goal, but you keep putting it off because it's something that you don't like to do, because it makes you uncomfortable. It makes you feel vulnerable. You're afraid of failure. You're afraid of success. And so that one thing for many people can be inviting. It can be posting on social media. It can be talking about the business. And so what happens is, what we do is we get busy working, but we're never really doing the things that move us forward. And so we're like playing, we're making a Canva graphic, we're getting on endless amounts of training calls, we're planning for next month. But really having this habit for me of eating that frog, because for me it was invites, especially early on in the direct sales space. I avoided them. I'd get through my whole day, and then I knew at 9:00 at night, after my boys went to bed and I was completely out of energy, the last thing I wanted to do was get online and invite. And so I said to myself, okay, I'm going to start eating my frog. Invites is my frog, so I'm going to do it first thing in the morning. And first thing meaning when I sit down to work, right? And so I started to create a new habit. The new habit was, I'm not going to do other things like post on social media or watch a new training until I send the invites. And so what happened is I disciplined myself to create this new habit of eating my frog first in the day, which I knew that was going to be the thing that compounded over time. And so for me, that was a habit that really did allow me to get to the next level.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what your frog was. So that does help.
Yep.
And I think that is many people's frog.
Yep.
And what would your business look like if that was the first thing that you got out of the way?
Yeah.
All right. Tip number 3 is to have somebody who's holding you accountable. And I like to go back to the story of when I was building my business towards elite. So that was a status in our company. It was a specific rank that allowed me to get a bonus, and a monthly bonus. And I remember there were 2 other girls in the organization who were going for it, and they were a little bit further behind than me. And I remember thinking to myself, well, if they can do it, and I know my numbers, I mean, there's no way that I'm going to let them do it if I don't do it. And so there was almost this competition. But what was cool was the 3 of us were very different, like even personality wise, how we ran our businesses.
Yeah.
And because we were so different, we actually allowed each other to showcase our gifts to other people and learn from each other. And that is actually how we achieved the goal. So number 3 is have someone hold you accountable. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, Katy, I don't have someone in the business that will hold me accountable. That's fine. You have a mom, a sister, a friend, a spouse, somebody who knows you, that if you put that stake in the ground and if you say, this is what I am working towards, can you do me a favor and send me a text daily? Or can you do me a favor and make sure that I can't watch my favorite show, maybe it's CSI or something, until the invites are done? And explain too why you're working towards that goal, because that helps them, the people who care about you, really hold you to a higher standard. So I would say that number 3 is really having someone hold you accountable.
I love that. And we create lots of opportunities to hold people accountable, right? Within our direct sales done right community, one of the things that we know makes the biggest impact is when we schedule these daily check-ins. And when the members of our community know that Katy or myself are going to be in there reading their trackers and asking them questions about, their goals and holding them accountable, people show up. You show up differently when you know that somebody is counting on you, and when you know somebody is going to ask you about your results that you said that you actually wanted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go with number 4. Do you want to take number 4?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I need to look at my sheet so I know exactly where I'm going. All right, so you got to put things into writing. So once you have that accountability and okay, this is what I want, this is who's holding me accountable, now we need to put it into writing. And this is really the part that people kind of get scared about, right? So they get scared. And I was actually doing a live coaching session yesterday inside of our community, and I had asked Missy about this. I was like, hey, Missy, I was like, like, you know, what are your goals? And she was like, I don't have them. She doesn't write them down. And I said, well, why not? And she goes, because I'm afraid to write them down. Like, I'm afraid I'm going to fail at it. And I said, well, Missy, I go, what is it that you really want? And she was like, but I have a really good job. And I go, but what do you want this business to do for you? And so she started talking about how she would like to retire in 10 years and that she was going to be 60. And I said, so how much do you need to retire? And we sort of like backed her into the actual goal. And then I said, all right, what's the dollar amount this month that you need to make in order to get one step closer to your retirement? And so we figured out, we talked about it, and I said, now I want you to write it down. I said, you don't have to go on Facebook and Instagram and plaster it everywhere that this is my goal, you know? And I said, you know, you don't have to tell everybody. But if you don't know what you're working towards, I said, don't you just feel like every day you're just kind of floating? You're like floating through your day. And she's like, I do. I go, you're never really getting anything. She's like, yes. I go, because you don't have something you're like working towards. So writing it down and saying, all right, my big vision is to get to here. The first mile marker is what I'm going to do in the next 30 days. This is the goal. And then that allows you to take that action, but you have to write it down. And we write it down. That's why we have it in the Direct Sales Done Right planner every week. Write your goal on your time blocker, write your goal. And you're always measuring your progress, because when you write it down, now you know what you're focused on. And that allows you to really take the next step of like putting it into action.
Yeah. I actually, while you were writing or while you were sharing that, I was looking at this picture. There's this beautiful artwork everywhere.
Yeah.
There's all these boats. And what Melanie just described, when, you know, you don't have a goal, you're kind of like a buoy in the water. You're just kind of floating. You're going sort of anywhere, left, right, wherever the tide takes you. But a boat, when you're intentional about steering the boat, it has a direction, and you'd rather be the boat than the buoy. So we want to make sure that we are the boat and not the buoy in the water. All right. Then the fifth one, and I feel like this is really where I know for the book, this is really what helped me out a lot. And this is 11 years of direct sales experience. Melanie has been my guide for a lot of that. A mentor of mine in direct sales. I know that we've had other corporate mentors and whatnot in the business. But one of the things that she is so big on, why our community members are so successful, why your rockstar recruitment clients are so successful, why your one-on-ones are so successful, is because all of those things are really, really great. But unless you have a plan in place, all it is just a wish. It is just a wish. So you could have an accountability partner, but if that accountability partner is like, what's your plan? And you're like, I don't know, what are they going to do? And if you're like, all right, I'm going to stop my bad habits, and you do, but you have no plan in place, you may have stopped the bad habit, but it's not going to move you forward with where you want to go in your business. And so the last one is pretty obvious, and this just is a plan. And I don't know about you, but I know that our community, we help them with this as well. So the Direct Sales Done Right book is a great action plan.
It is.
I mean, it is a proven path, and it's a good one because
we've walked it.
We've walked it, and it's helped us actually be very intentional about our time, because let's face it, you get one go at this. You get one go at this life. So when you're intentional about your time, it's a different feel than when you feel like you're wasting it.
It is. And I don't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
But, you know, there are months in our business, not months, there are some weeks where, you know, here at Chic Influencer, we are like we're just serving our audience. Yeah. We're just like adding value and putting content out there. And those are the times I feel like a buoy a little bit. Yeah. You know, it's like when we know we have a deadline, when we know we have a goal, and we know we want X amount of people to buy our book or come to a webinar, we are very intentional about the plan. We know these are the posts, these are the emails, these are the connections, these are the invites.
Exactly.
And it's creating a plan. And then when you wake up in the morning, you know what to work on. Okay, if I want to get to this goal, I need to do this specific thing. Exactly. And that's so important, because if you don't have a plan, you just sort of float.
Yeah. And one of the concepts in the book about driving towards daylight is to make sure that you're celebrating along the way. And that's exactly what we are going to do tonight. We are going to celebrate the launch of Direct Sales Done Right. We're going to network with some local, direct sellers. We're also going to like other local business owners too. So it is just a celebration. And I find that if you aren't intentional too about celebrating, you never really enjoy the process. And we want you to enjoy the process as well. So go ahead.
I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to like 100% put you on the spot right now. Okay. So one of the things inside of the Direct Sales Done Right book that you talk about is your definition of success. We're actually going to be speaking about that tonight. And in the book, you talk about this time that you pushed for a goal and you didn't like the way that it felt.
Yeah.
And so this was a pretty big goal. And a couple of times over the past 2 weeks, you've said, it feels like I'm pushing for, like I did when I was pushing for elite.
Yeah.
And so my question to you is how, because of all of your experience, how has this process of doing something so big, like the goals that you've done in the past, how has it been different? How have you approached it differently because of the things you've learned from your experience?
So definitely the mile marker mindset.
Okay.
So when I set out in January to write the book, it was not I want to get it done on January 31st. I was very intentional about enjoying the process. I love the editing process too. And the writing process, and working with my editor to make sure I could take a reader from emotional to humor, and really walking them through sort of a roller coaster while still allowing for action. And I love the idea of putting stories together. That was a big part of the book, is just really allowing the reader to experience stories, the story of network marketing, and to see themselves as the hero of the story as well. So I enjoyed the process because it was a passion of mine. My passion is words. I love words. I love writing. I love looking at my clients and seeing their works and their words, and I love that part of it. In terms of the end result, where the book is, of course, I get a lot of fear and just that jitters of like, how is it going to do? How is it going to be received? Because it's kind of like putting your baby out there.
For sure,
saying,
100%.
Isn't this the cutest thing you've ever seen? But I also feel a sense of peace that the words are being used for good. And one of my back pocket prayers that I would say in the morning is, Lord, soften my edges, sharpen my words. So, and I feel as though this whole process has been just so fun to just really evolve as a writer and as a coach to other direct sellers.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I would say
peace. And it was there were hard days, there were ups and downs along the way, but it's just really cool to say like, wow, all the life experience in the past has led to your ability to create such a masterpiece today, but in such a place of being a healthy CEO. You know, I mean, sure, tired, but not burnt out, not resentful. And that's hope to all of you that are listeners right now to know, like, you can do direct sales right. You can be a healthy CEO. You can create a masterpiece. In your life, too, it may not be a book, but whatever it is that you're working on, it can be done.
Yeah. I love it. Well, you guys, thank you so much. I'm going to leave you with a review from Michaela about the book. She said, okay, I love it. I am about 1/3 of the way done, and I cannot wait to get my whole team to get it, and for my new partners coming in. First, I love the writing style. So easy to read and relatable. I don't feel talked to, but like I'm talking to a friend who has walked the walk. I love the honesty and storytelling. Not surprised by this, as it is Katy's style. As someone who has always been a Chic member and done lots of courses and mentorships with both Melanie and Katy, I am obviously a fan, but often wish I could take every nugget to the team. While I've tried that bit by bit, this gives a comprehensive guide I can put into their hands. Thank you so much. That was actually Lindsay Fortney who left that message.
I love it.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Direct Sales Done Right podcast. We'll see you next time.
Oh my gosh, we are so incredibly proud of what Katy has accomplished. I've had a front row seat to watching this entire book process unfold. And I know that what she has written is going to change your life, and it's going to give you inspiration. It's going to give you practical tips and tools, and it is going to help you chase your dreams and give you the, just give you the courage to go after what you really want. And I absolutely can't wait for you to get your hands on it. And I am just so proud that Katy took the leap of faith and had the courage to put this out there for other people. So if you loved today's episode, make sure you head over to wherever you listened to the episode today and leave us a rating and review. And also take a little screenshot and tag us on Chic Influencer. We'll feature you in our stories. Plus, we'd love to get your feedback and hear from our listeners.
Until next week, let's make chic happen.